Hey everybody, welcome back to the Convo Couch. So there has been a lot of talk about the Democratic Convention, and I really wanted to do a quick video explaining exactly why I am so angry at the way it's happening and why so many others are as well, but also pointing out how it's not a convention anymore, it's a coronation for Joe Biden, and it's important we understand that so we don't have any naive rose-colored glasses when going into this convention, because it is beyond like corrupt. It's beyond proof that the Democratic Party isn't moving anywhere to the left, especially right now. So the breaking news is the Democratic Convention will not be on Zoom. No Bernie delegates or delegates will be on. Only some credentialed media have access, mainstream media, in other words, and only what these people broadcast is going to show. In other words, as Chris Shimizu posted on her Facebook, so the Democratic National Convention will not be meeting in person and will not be on Zoom. There will be no opportunity for transparency or accountability. In other words, the DNC is bound to be like a silent but deadly fart unless they change something fast. So I'm not saying we're not going to be able to view the convention. What I am saying is there's not going to be transparency, because what you view will be selected by a handful of establishment elitist corporations, and there's not going to be the ability of these delegates to be there voicing their protests. If you read the whole thing that I'm going to show you guys in a minute, it's basically a giant coronation for Joe Biden. Like, I don't know any other way to explain it. And so basically I tweeted this out on July 10th saying that, I was on a Zoom call. This Zoom call was mainly about the local LA CDP, but there was a lot of Bernie delegate talk in there, and I found out that it's not going to be on Zoom. But more importantly, I want to point out too that this is all the trouble, after all the trouble that these Bernie delegates we're having, because if you guys remember, I've been following the story where the delegates that were chosen by the campaign were only approved if they were not never Biden, or if they didn't criticize vocally Joe Biden or the establishment in general. And so a lot of people who were chosen weren't even Bernie first. I mean, I'm talking about Warren supporters, people who supported Buttigieg, people that are the actual Democratic establishment in California and in other states. The same thing, my friends in Wisconsin, friends in Massachusetts, friends in Nevada. I mean, I could go on and on about how so many hardcore fighters for Bernie, who have been activists and progressives on the ground since 2015, were completely just dismissed because they posted something that was anti-Biden, which you would think would be the point of going to a fucking convention and opposing the establishment. I thought that was the point, to try to get a platform that more so resembled progressives, especially at a time when we're facing an economic crisis and a health crisis at the same time. But no, instead, these people were selected by the establishment within the Bernie campaign for being bootlickers. And not everybody, of course, some snuck in there, but the vast majority of the people that were chosen to be delegates to begin with, okay, were entirely submissive, meaning they weren't going to protest. They were going to try to work with the establishment and blah, blah, blah. Obviously, they didn't choose people like myself or some of the other fighters that we have here and in the rest of the nation, who would have been opposition to the Biden campaign, who would have twisted their arm to try to get something done. But no. And on top of that, of course, we know they were muzzled. These delegates were 100% muzzled by the Bernie Sanders campaign. They had to sign an NDA, had a social media policy. This is not proper protocol. A lot of people want to come back at me with, well, this is a convention and this is like, it's an NDA. Everybody has an NDA. First of all, these delegates aren't employees of the campaign, so they had no reason to follow such strict protocols. Second of all, if we look back in 2016, the delegates spoke freely to the media. They were able to live stream. They were able to film. They had access and kept all of their files. The new policy suggested that anything that was filmed during the whole convention that they thought at that point would be in person would belong to the Bernie Sanders campaign, and that they couldn't use it unless otherwise told to do so, which again is muzzling these delegates. Now, flash forward to now, where coronavirus is still an issue. Now it's going to be virtual. Oh, how perfectly coincidental for the Democratic establishment to have a virtual convention, because if you guys recall, there was the group of marching to Milwaukee, millions to Milwaukee. There was groups of people organizing, ready to protest outside of that convention. No more coronavirus is here. We can't do that. Well, technically we could. I mean, there has been, protests everywhere in the country for Black lives. We could have organized and done that, but that didn't come together necessarily. And people kind of lost hope because of the way this whole thing has happened, how Bernie Sanders has endorsed Joe Biden, said that Joe Biden is going to be the most progressive president since FDR, which is an outright lie. And so, people kind of are like, what the hell is the point, right? But then, of course, the Democratic establishment decides to do the little cherry on top. And now it's just so sad. I had to laugh at some point because it is unreal how authoritarian and undemocratic this country is. I mean, we like literally spend our time criticizing countries like China and criticizing countries all over the world for their authoritarianism, like Venezuela. Yet right in this country, we don't have 100% freedom of speech. We're completely being censored, especially people like myself and other truth tellers who are independent media. We're being harassed, smeared. Journalists like Julian Assange are in jail. People still aren't really talking about it at the length they should be. Election integrity is an issue nobody wants to talk about. Then we have child sex trafficking, pedophilia, and all the Democratic establishment wants to talk about is Russia. Again, after 3 years of nothing, they want to continue to promote this new Cold War and this new McCarthyite, attitude towards another country when we can't even fix our own country. And that is not a bipartisan issue. That is like a real life issue. These are situations that we're facing right now. And everybody had hoped that the Bernie Sanders campaign was going to push against that. Even after losing, a lot of progressives thought, well, we're going to push Biden left. Guess what? You're not going to push Biden left, you guys. As you saw, he adopted zero of the Green New Deal. Or defunding the police or Medicare for all. Like, you're not going to push him left because Joe Biden is taking that money. And as long as those lobbyists and the money coming in is what he is answering to, he's not going to answer to you or anybody else. And as long as you continue to say you're going to vote blue no matter who, they have no reason to be held accountable. So I'm just saddened that this is the state where we're in, but I just want to go over the actual document, the actual email that was sent to delegates that I got a hold of. And this is, again, the Democratic Convention, okay, is now a formality, a mere coronation party, no pun intended, for Biden. The closest thing to a real convention Bernie delegates will get to is a webinar teaching them how to fill their ballot. So here it is. Here's a document, and I'm going to go over it really quickly. Again, this was sent on July 10th, and they said, congratulations on being elected to serve as a delegate in the 2020 Democratic Convention. You play a vital role that will formally nominate the next president and vice president of the United States. Delegates to the National Convention represent the values that unite our party and reflect the extraordinary diversity of America. Again, platitude salad right here. Platitude salad. The values that unite us. What, we really don't have the same values. Let me tell you guys, I do not have the same values as freaking Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden. And after consulting with the public health officials about COVID-19 pandemic, the DNCC concluded that state delegations should not plan to travel to Milwaukee, and official convention business will be conducted remotely. Given the pandemic, the DNCC has developed a voting system that will allow convention delegates to safely and securely cast ballots for all required votes. Each delegate will be sent an individual ballot with unique identifiers via email. During the voting period, each certified delegate will receive a ballot and directions for completing and returning the ballot electronically. The state parties will be responsible for collecting all the ballots from convention delegates as they would if we were conducting votes in person at the convention. This right here. I don't know about your state or where you're watching from, but California is full of corrupt establishment leeches. We are excited that this process has been established in order to allow for the party business of the convention to be conducted without risking the health of our delegates and their families. I'm sure that's all they had in mind, folks. Your enthusiasm and determination to be a force for change during this watershed moment for our nation reminds us all why we're proud to be Democrats. We cannot wait to share that spirit with the rest of the nation in August as we all work together to elect Joe Biden in November. So again, Joe Biden has clinched the nomination. This is all about electing Joe Biden because we must defeat the maniac in office, and our values unite us. No, our values are what divide us because we don't have the same values. These people have the same values as the neocons, these neoliberals, these milquetoast neoliberals, as Dr. Cornel West calls them, are almost the same as these neocons. And here's the thing, foreign policy wise, they fall in line at the same. So what the hell is the point of voting for either Joe or Trump? But I digress. I mean, this isn't about about anything except putting the little crown on Joe Biden. That's all this is about. You have no say. Bernie Sanders delegates have no say. Why are you going to continue to support a party and a system that has cheated you, robbed you, and caused emotional and psychological distress? I mean, this is where we're at, folks. This is where we're at. This is the lack of democracy. And I say mocracy with M-O-C-K because it's a mockery out of a system. We're not even in a republic. We're definitely not in a democracy. We are living in authoritarianism, very, very close to getting to fascism. And that was not only, it didn't only begin with Donald Trump. It has been ongoing for a long, long time before. That is why Donald Trump is president, because we were going in this direction for a long time. And the fact that they continue to act like this is all positive and gung-ho and we need to unite behind this. I mean, I even consider Biden a neocon because Joe Biden is the architect of the system that led to Donald Trump. Joe Biden wrote the crime bill. Joe Biden voted for the Iraq war. Joe Biden enacted all of these neoliberal policies and very conservative policies that have led to the system we're in right now. So I don't understand why we would vote for the more of the root to get rid of the symptom, which is Trump. And so I keep saying this like till I'm blue in the face because that's the reality. And I'm going to keep talking about it because people aren't really talking about this and how this is a direct insult, especially to the Bernie Sanders supporters who naively thought, and I say naively, and I don't mean to be an asshole, but like, I don't know why you thought you were going to have any influence in this platform. They literally denied every single thing. And there's Bernie Sanders making a joke out of like, oh yeah, Joe Biden's going to be the most progressive president since FDR. Are you kidding me? And saying like, oh, we're going to manage to get some of these things. What he's talking about managing to get is crumbs, and we're probably not even guaranteed to get that. I mean, COBRA instead of Medicare for all. I mean, cutting down carbon emissions by this much by 2050. Who knows if we're even going to be around by 2050? What the hell is your problem? In general, they're starting to close down nail salons again, gyms, retail, all these things, but the government hasn't provided people with more money. $600, it runs out at the end of this month. What are we doing to demand they actually do what they're supposed to do to make sure the people are taken care of? Why don't we have Medicare for all during a pandemic? Because not enough people are complaining about this, or not enough people are complaining that Joe Biden presidency is a sham, that this whole election is a sham, that this whole back and forth theatrics of, ooh, Trump's bad, ooh, Biden's bad. Like, the Republicans and the Democrats are playing you right now. They're playing you because they want you to pick a team and rant against the other side. Meanwhile, they both are in agreement when it comes to war, when it comes to approving a $740 billion military budget. Like, stop. Like, let's be real here. Like, nobody's telling you to vote for Trump or like that he's going to be any better than Joe Biden. But what I am saying is you have your vote and you have your ability to protest, use both, and stand with the people and stop falling in line with this shit. And like what the Bernie Sanders campaign was entirely co-opted, and I'm going to be talking more and more about that. But like, this is a joke. This isn't opposition to the status quo. This is capitulation. And you should all be very upset. And I think there shouldn't be votes for the Democrats. We should show them that we're not going to participate in this mockery of a system anymore. The time has come to leave the Democratic Party. And guess what? The Green Party isn't much better. I mean, there's been so much bickering among the Green Party that I don't even have like what am I going to say? You know, I'm not going to tell everybody to go vote necessarily for Green if the elections weren't even fair. And speaking of the Green Party, I just wanted to add that the Green Party had their own convention. A lot of people weren't happy with it. And Pasta said, you Dems are chumps. At least the Green Party had an online convention where people could zoom in, where the chats were muted on speaking out against the election rigging. The DNC isn't even giving you that. If you want to vote Green, vote Green. If you want to vote third party, vote third party. But to vote for the Democratic Party when they're doing this out in the open like that is to tell an abuser that it's okay that you're being abused because you don't have the strength to stand on your own. And I use that analogy not for lack of empathy, but because that's what it is. It is a relationship of abuse. And I think it's naive to try to figure out that you're going to get anything, because you're not going to get anything from this bogus committee, because people are going to say, oh, the work happens in the committees and we're going to be included. Sure. The task forces who chose delegates who'd stay silent on Biden again, like who wouldn't, you couldn't be vote, you had to be vote blue no matter who. No Nina Turner, no Cornel West, no people who were really like in favor of challenging the system. Do you really think we're going to be doing this with these corrupt establishment opportunists who are using Bernie's name to really get jobs in the establishment once this is done? There was also nothing on foreign policy in this thing. So like if you're not including foreign policy, yeah. And I just want to point out this really interesting tweet. This is what Democrats do, right? Because they can't talk about policy, because then you'd realize they're Republicans if they talked about policy. And so the Democratic coalition said, it's not about policy. It's not about personality. It's not about political party. This election is a referendum on self-governance, democracy, and the rule of law. Like, what does that even mean? Like, they don't even know what it means. It's just some freaking platitude salad. But they can't talk about policy, because then you'd know that the policies is the same as a Republican policy. And Grumpy Birdie, who's been tweeting some great things, said that Bernie has been co-opted. The Greens have been infiltrated by neolib light people. The left is getting destroyed. Again, we don't really have a left in this country. We have a very small facet of individuals that see what's happening, but we really, even the people we've put in Congress, I would say AOC is left of center. I would say Bernie Sanders is left of center on the world scale, right? They're still trying to work within the system. There is no time for working within the system, you guys. There really isn't. And I think the sooner we realize that, the quicker we will get to solutions. And I just want to point out this website, the Bernie 2020 Autopsy, made by several activists and organizers. Just look at it. It's Bernie2020autopsy.wordpress.com. They have everybody in the consultant class. They have the PACs. They have the grassroots. They have the staff issues, testimonials. Just go through all that, and you're going to find all of this. And they talk about this 2020 delegate selection process. They talk about what happened with Chuck Rocha, with everybody. And so you can just go through it, but there's just a lot on there. So check it out. So thank you guys for watching. Please like, share, subscribe to our Rokfin. All you have to do is sign up. It's free. And we're also on Patreon. We would love to have more Patreon members. The more members we have, the more news we can do, the more places we can travel. We appreciate you. Convo out.